Jonathan Joestar, the protagonist of Phantom Blood and a fighter in the Kaleb's favorite Joestar competition, because it's either him or it's Giorno, and I still really haven't found a winner. If you have neither as your favorite Joestar, then that's respectable and you're entitled to your own opinion. Jonathan isn't the most colorful character, but his passion and belief drives him to the top. We're going to be going over his character to see what we can find. What's up guys, it's Kaleb with another character analysis. You guys can submit your characters in the comments or use the poll in the top right corner in the video, which I believe to be the more organized way of going about it. And since we got all the formalities out of the way, let's get into Jonathan, and yes, I meant to say that. Now, the first time we see Jonathan, he's getting the exposition beaten out of him, and we're watching him the same way that Erina is watching him. So checking up on Jonathan, he's obviously not okay, but why? Well, he took a beating for Erina, and while the fight being pretty minimal, Jonathan had full control of the situation. He initiates the fight by jumping in the middle of those guys harassing her, and they beat him. After beating him, they assume he's a Joestar, and he proves their assumption. They had stated that they were going to beat him even harder than before if he was a Joestar, and he goes ahead with his little vigilant eyes to make sure that he's showing his Joestar napkin, making them think that he's not doing it purposely by not saying anything, but realistically he's been playing them the whole time. When he says, "someday I will win," that isn't him wishing. He knows how smart he is and what he stands for. What he needed was to be stronger, and once you add that on, then he's going to be an experienced fighter. Now, before the time skip where it looks like Dio and Jonathan are happy, Jonathan hits the lowest low I've ever seen. So much happens to him and he just has to hold and accept that. Dio constantly just messes with Jonathan's life, and there isn't a single thing Jonathan can enjoy without Dio being Dio. There's moments where it's Jonathan not being as smart or as strong as Dio, and that stacks up on his feelings about everything. But no more. Disgracing Erina was the last straw, so with honor on the line, Jonathan fights harder than he ever did before. He ate the hits and then he dished them right back to Dio, and I can tell you that this is probably one of the most satisfying moments in JoJo. Seeing Dio get rocked makes me feel so much better because this is just justice in the works. But why was the final straw Erina's honor? Well, you kind of have to take the era into account. Honor is a huge thing in Phantom Blood due to the times that they were in, and as parts go on, people become less honorable and more underhanded with everything. Underhanded actions these days are known as clever moves, in a way that you just outsmarted the other person. Honor back then was more focused on straightforward actions, and to compare it, fighting with honor was like throwing a ball for your dog to fetch. That's one clear objective, and it's as straightforward as it gets. Going on about it in a more underhanded and Dio way, you pretend to throw the ball, and the dog goes to fetch, but actually you never threw the ball, and well, if you're Dio, you also knock out the dog and tie up its mouth and throw it into an incinerator waiting for someone else to turn it on. Or, like a better example is cheating versus not cheating, telling the truth versus lying, or playing Fox in Smash 4 versus playing Diddy in Smash 4. And if you don't know Smash, don't worry, I promise I know stuff, and Fox is an honest character, I swear, pinky promise. Jonathan lives a life where disgracing someone is the worst thing you can do. It's second to death, but ahead of giving someone smallpox, and let me tell you about smallpox back then, oh, you have a better chance of surviving a chop to the head from Vampire Dio. Now, Jonathan, after showing how strong he is to Dio, is still getting his life ruined, and after the time skip it seemed to have been a bit better, but Jonathan never forgot. You can't kiss a man's girl and kill his dog. You just can't forget stuff like that. He wants to try to forgive Dio and believe he's a nice guy now, but his gut feeling doesn't allow him to do so, and that's because what Dio had done was such a huge thing. Then after plot and realizing that Dio is still very much an asshole, Dio is now cornered and completely figured out. Now, tell me, why does Jonathan actually give Dio the benefit of the doubt when arresting him? He had just been found out on a 7 to 8 year scheme, killed Danny, tried to kill George, except slowly, and had planned to kill Jonathan. And you just have Jonathan here with handcuffs in hand thinking about the situation like, this guy basically tried to destroy everything I love and hold dear. But maybe he's going to try to come quietly. So why does Jonathan give Dio a chance? Well, because he actually believed that Dio would be noble for once and just own up and accept his imprisonment. The problem with really noble people, you can fall to people fooling you pretty easily if they have a believable act, and this goes why what this video is named what it is. I do believe that Jonathan's nobility is an art, but it's a huge burden, so that's why it's called the pain of nobility, and not disregarding art and pain, because art really does hurt. That's why it's called painting. Jonathan's nobility makes him both gullible and not as smart as those who go about stuff in the other way. So Dio had rejected his humanity, and we get a lot more plot. Now, put us in the Jonathan versus Bruford fight. This is where Jonathan fights a hero like him. Bruford tries his luck and with trying to handicap Jonathan underwater, but he takes note of Jonathan not being like a regular human. Now, trying to handicap Jonathan had ended up biting Bruford, and the fight was taken to land. This is because Bruford isn't really the one for underhanded tactics, since he was originally an honorable knight. Trying to do something you're personally not meant to do always ends up to you messing up, so that's why Dio can get away from doing stuff like that, because that's really all he knows. Once the fight is taken to land, there's a back and forth, but Jonathan comes out on top. Though, there was a problem that Jonathan had faced, and that was killing Bruford. Jonathan's Sunlight Yellow Overdrive had destroyed the resurrected body of Bruford, but it had revived his original pure human soul. Jonathan had hated what he had done, having to kill such an honorable man just to save him. Bruford was a man manipulated by Dio, and it was a sad sight for Jonathan. Now, going further on into Phantom Blood, you have the fight with Tarkus and Jonathan, which was completely different from Bruford and Jonathan. While Tarkus getting Jonathan into the room of dragon decapitation was underhanded, the rest was due to the strength and experience gap between Tarkus, Jonathan, and Zeppeli. But for what Tarkus does to Zeppeli, Jonathan executes what I had originally called revenge on Tarkus. In the eyes of nobility, this is both justice and judgment for Tarkus. So far through all of this, Jonathan's nobility always comes out on top. Even if he loses for a bit, he always comes back. But how much is too much? When is there really ever a break for Jonathan? Throughout Phantom Blood, Jonathan follows a one-track mentality and doesn't ever get misguided. He's constantly hit with lies, tricks, and immoral deeds. It feels like he's the only one fighting for good, and realistically, he is. Or well, after Zeppeli dies. The Hamon Masters come into play, and that's nice while it's there, but to Jonathan's original circle, there's nothing much really. Dio can manipulate as many people as he wants, and he gains the advantage in numbers. So bad can always outnumber good, but how much good really is there? I'd like to say at the moment of time that bad is actually ridiculously stronger than good, and that's in a lot of perspectives. If you throw some good into some bad, it's only going to damage the good. You can't just hope that the good will be enough to spread. But when it's the other way around, even to a smaller degree, it still works for the bad. Like the idiom, one bad apple spoils the whole barrel, meaning that one bad thing can ruin everything around it. And if you go back to Phantom Blood, you realize that Dio is said bad apple. When I picture bad or evil, I think of Part 1 Dio. To be that smart, have that much strength, and to have that much control is impressive and terrifying. Who really knows how much good prospers, because bad has too much power and influence these days. Bad people, bad deeds, and I want to say bad moods or bad mindset, but that really depends on how you see certain things like depression and all. And what I guess I'm trying to say is Jonathan was good, but he was too good. Jonathan had one fair and square fight at Dio's castle, but when it came to the end, he just wasn't ready. But with having Dio having the upper hand on him, I actually do really respect that he acknowledges Jonathan's strength and skill. He doesn't stand for any disrespect towards Jonathan, and well, he could have had anybody he wanted, but he went for Jonathan. So, in some way, I guess you can see that as another sign of respect, flattering, or something. I really have no clue. I've never wanted to take over someone's body to further pursue their lineage just so I could continue my ideals of heaven, and it's a huge mess. Here's my final thoughts on Jonathan. Him being the first Joestar and having the now ancient morals had really set a good base to continue off of. I believe that everyone has to have a yin-yang type of lifestyle, and Jonathan was mostly yin, but that made him more susceptible to yang. Being the good guy is great and all, but it's a pretty difficult job. So this is to everyone that's watching this video, and this is a thing to take with you. Don't let people mess with you. Don't let people mess with what you love. And lastly, don't let people control you, because once people control you, then they want to control fate, and then they want to control time, and then they want to control reality, and then you got eyes of heaven, and people just take and take and take and take, and screw you, Dio. Just Just screw Dio. All jokes aside, thank you guys for watching. If you guys like the video, click the thumbs up because it gives me some reassurance. My social media is in the description if you guys want to follow me. I post a lot of wholesome stuff on Instagram, and Twitter is really just whatever that's going on for me. But I really do wish that you guys, and I really hope that you guys have a good one, because times can be dark and difficult, but I guess you just have to find your own light. And reminder, everyone, be patient, because I had some time recently where you just gotta be patient for stuff in general. So I'll see you guys in the next one. So until then, peace out and Godspeed.
I'm gonna get you out of here. I promise you, I'm gonna get you out of there. You don't belong in there. I'm gonna get you out.